oh my gosh, it was formerly ego-syntonic for me to make my wife, my child, and my friends very, very unhappy by not relating to them. But now that has become ego-dystonic for me. I'm taking responsibility for what I've been doing.
Okay, so they are aware something wrong.
What?
They started to know something wrong around them with relationship, wife, family, right?
Yes.
This is how they get it, that something wrong.
Yes, I think I don't know, I didn't mention in this class, once I was talking with somebody about the then chairman of Chase, and he always made it out like his life was perfect, and he would always brag about his two daughters. They were very big shot, like executive vice presidents in other banks. And then this person said to me, he has a son. And I said, really? I've heard him talk many times about his family and blah, blah, blah. He's never mentioned his son. He said, yeah, his son is in and out of rehab. He's a real mess. He's been to jail, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so what happened? He outsourced his relating and his responsibility, to the people around him, to his son, and that was too much of a burden for the son to carry. So the fact that somebody doesn't register things and is perfectly happy to go along living that way doesn't necessarily mean that, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so let's go to, since we sort of set this up, of the power of the image and so forth, let's go to the reading for this week, which was the angels. And let's go to page 56. So I'm going to draw a circle. I should add to our previous discussion before we start this, that Jung says that the higher self, or the self as he called it, is interested in completion, not perfection. So completion would be, for Socrates, completing his life by recognizing the role of relating in life and giving it an endorsement that it has value in addition to ratiocination, intellectual processing and so forth. So the thing that brings about completion is balance. And so you could say that his life was out of balance. And the unconscious sends up this transcendent function image to see if the balance can be restored, but only if consciousness is, sufficiently prepared to do that. The other example that I gave was, remember I talked about two men in India. I hope I talked about that in here. This example I made up of the two men in India who are on a hunt, and one has to relieve himself, and the other one says, I'm going to relieve myself too, and they notice that ants crawl over the spot where one relieved himself, but they don't over the other one. And so is consciousness ready to receive the meaning of that image? If it is, it knows, the ants like sugar. He has sugar in his urine. Sugar in the urine is a sign of diabetes. The conclusion to be reached is no more sugar in the diet. You have to exercise. You have to have protein on a regular basis. In our world, you have to, monitor your sugar, blah, 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 and so on. So if consciousness is not ready to receive that image, there were some ants there. Isn't that interesting? Okay, blah, blah, blah. What's the consequence going to be? An early death. So, so we're going to make a circle, okay? And we're going to say inside the circle is a phenomenon that we really don't know. It's an unknown phenomenon. It's a kind of a mystery and so forth, okay? But we have various different perspectives on it, okay? So one perspective is to say that let's call this one a situation description science. Okay? So we could say that the science of situation description would be something that we would say, in this room, for example, includes that there was tables that were white, that had legs, there were chairs that were purple, that had arms, there was a clock, there was a Christmas wreath, there was a lectern, et cetera, et cetera. We would describe it in as sufficient detail as we could possibly get to. Okay? And we would say that it has a quality. Okay? Now, another thing that would be for this mysterious unknown thing, we could call a space-time energy picture. Okay? So we were to describe this space-time energy picture of where we are right now. We would say it's 2016 years after the birth of a figure who's worshipped. We would say that there are cars, planes, and trains. We would say that this particular time had colder weather than at other times, and blah, blah, blah. So we would describe this space-time energy picture, from the point of view of space and time. Now let's do a couple of yorms. Yorms would be to say that there is an orient of the moment. Okay? And another one of yorms would be to say that there is a confluence of established prevailing precedents. That's also on page 56. Okay? So you come into this room and there's a confluence of established prevailing precedents. It's a class, it's not a football game, it's a Jungian class, it's not a class about Excel spreadsheets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's all about if someone were to walk into this class right now, there would be a whole concatenation, to use my favorite word, of established prevailing precedents for that person to enter into. Okay? So now we have in another Yorm 1, an energy system. That's the energy system is inherent in the territory. So a energy system in a territory. Okay? Now we could go on, and we could come up with all kinds of other ways of pointing to what's that mysterious unknown thing in the center. And these are sort of modern ways of describing this. But it would be very unusual, in fact it would be without precedent, if people who came before us didn't have a way of describing what would be the experience of someone coming into this room, whether it would be that they could make a description science out of it, or a space-time energy picture, or an orient of the moment, or a confluence of established prevailing precedents, or an energy system in a territory. So they had an image for it. And what was their image? An angel! So the amazing thing